just a preamble. All right, you have been warned. Okay, um, let me say on behalf of the department how pleased I am to see all of you. Even though we cannot all be together in the same physical space at the auditorium in Storm Hall West, where we normally would have gathered, I am very happy that we can be here virtually to congratulate you on your accomplishments and wish you continued success. The last 15 months have been unusual and challenging in various ways, and you have persevered and succeeded. Taking classes via Zoom is not easy. It is difficult for both students and faculty. We have all lost something in that process, although we have all become somewhat expert in using Zoom. And we have also shown that we can teach and learn in less than ideal circumstances. I want to also acknowledge the emotional and other social and financial challenges you have faced in the last 15 months. And that makes your accomplishments as you graduate all the more impressive. Some of you would have experienced loss even of a loved one, a family member, a friend, loss of a job, and all of us have endured loss of personal contact. We've all come to realize how important that is to our lives. You've had to continue showing up and performing despite these losses. This semester, just about a month ago, I had to hold a scheduled department meeting the day after I lost an uncle to COVID. And we've all realized maybe we had a little more strength than we thought we had. Your graduation today speaks to your resilience and your sheer doggedness in the face of obstacles. And through this experience, we all have a new appreciation for those who inspired us to keep on going, for instructors who reached out, who were flexible, who kept nudging us along. We are grateful for family and friends who offered encouragement and help so you could complete your degrees. I want to take a moment to acknowledge all the work that was done by your professors too, by professors who worked long hours, who dealt with grace and with some swearing at the difficulty of grading on Canvas, who improvised and who maybe sometimes had classes that didn't go too well, but kept on going and doing their best. I must say it takes special skill to teach enthusiastically to a bunch of black boxes on Zoom. The last 3 semesters have been hard for instructors, and I thank them for all they've done. I'm grateful for the compassion students have shown towards their instructors and the compassion instructors have shown towards their students. For we've learned at least one thing in the last 15 months, that if we are having a difficult time, we can be sure we are not alone in that. One of the great challenges of the long-term isolation imposed by the COVID pandemic is to find a way to let students know that they still have shared experiences, that they are part of a community. And as you will see in our slideshow a little later, despite having to move everything onto Zoom, we still managed to organize a number of talks this academic year on a wide variety of linguistic topics, as well as conducting workshops to help prepare our students for graduate school and the workforce. So in concluding, let me say this. Each of you graduating with a bachelor's degree in linguistics, Japanese, or language and culture, or with a master's degree in linguistics, has worked hard for a number of years to arrive at this milestone in your life. And all of us faculty, your teachers, congratulate you. I am happy to see all your family and friends who have joined us to share in this special virtual celebration. On behalf of the faculty, I would like to thank all of you family members and friends of our graduates for your support and encouragement of your graduating student. I will now say a few words about the programs we offer before I introduce our faculty members. We will then play a short video presentation before we recognize the graduating students, which of course is the highlight of our program today. Our department offers a major and minor in linguistics, a major and minor in Japanese, and we have a brand new interdisciplinary major in language, culture, and society, and we are very proud of our first 2 graduates with this major. We also offer minors in teaching English as a second or foreign language, Chinese, and text analytics. We offer certificates in teaching English as a second language, computational linguistics, text analytics, and Korean studies. And we have 3 brand new certificates that will debut in fall 2021, a certificate in Arabic, 1 in the interdisciplinary study of bilingualism, and a 3rd certificate in transcultural communication. Additionally, our department offers coursework in a range of languages: Hebrew, Filipino, Arabic, Persian, Korean, in addition to Chinese and Japanese. We also offer composition courses at various levels to international and bilingual students, and hence our very long department name. So now we will introduce, I'm going to let you guys unmute yourselves if you want to cheer when we introduce the faculty. So let me introduce the faculty who are here. And Jeremy will be spotlighting these faculty as I introduce them. I'm going to start with the 2 new faculty members we have who joined us in fall 2020, Professor Yuki Arita, who is a Japanese linguist. So this was one of our brand new faculty. And then Professor Nasser Shari, an applied linguist. And let me now introduce the other faculty in alphabetical order. We have Professors Aniko Chomai. You all are now unmuted. So, I mean, you can unmute yourself if you want to say hi. And Professor Aaron Dinkin.
Hello, everybody.
Woohoo!
Professor Mark Gavran.
Welcome.
Woo!
Professor Yoshiko Higurashi.
Hi, everyone.
Professor Greg Keating, who has the distinct pleasure of being our new chair come August 2021.
Wow, congrats!
Professor Ryu Kitajima, who I think is on the phone. So
hi.
Very good. Okay, so we can't spotlight her. Professor Rob Malouf.
Congratulations, everybody.
Professor Driss Sulaimani. And Professor Zheng Zhang. Now, Professor Zhang has just gotten a Fulbright and will be spending a year in Kyrgyzstan, and he will be studying Chinese dialect spoken by Dungan Muslims. So we are very proud of the award that he just received. Now, we are also very fortunate to have a team of lecturers who provide outstanding instruction, who you've probably taken classes with. And so I will be introducing them now. Professor Stephanie Frame.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations.
Professor Kimberly Hilanto. Professor Kimberly Hilanto. Maybe she's not here. Professor Asuka Kuratani.
There she is.
Professor Alexandra Prades.
Congratulations, everyone.
Professor Ian Rustin.
Congratulations, graduates.
Professor Amanda Simons.
Congratulations, graduates.
And Professor Ghassan Zakaria. Are you here? Okay. Now in December, we were sorry to see the retirement of 2 long-term outstanding lecturers, Professors Rebecca Egypto and Paul Justice. Now, if anyone else is here that I missed, maybe you can raise your hands, but I think I got them all. Okay. Now, we will now present a slideshow depicting some of our students and faculty and their activities, both before the pandemic, pre-Zoom, and during the last 15 months. All right, we will now recognize the graduates. Dr. Dinkin will now recognize the students who are graduating with distinction.
Okay, so students who are graduating with distinction have to have at least a 3.5 GPA in upper division work in their major. So here are the students who are graduating with distinction this year. Christian K.R. Alston. Emily C. Buckley. Daria A. Dragachevich. Phoebe L. Gurn. Thena Livingstone. Laura Lopez Solis. Martin Racelis Martinez. Emmanuel A. Rodriguez. And Tiancheng Wan.
Congratulations all. We will now introduce the outstanding graduating students from linguistics and Japanese. It is now my pleasure to identify the outstanding student for 2021 in linguistics, Thena Livingstone. The outstanding student then picks her most influential faculty. Thena picked Dr. Eniko Chomai as her most influential faculty. Thena Livingstone will now make her comments, and then following that, Dr. Chomai will say a few words. So Thena, congratulations.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so great to see all of you, and I'm so excited and happy to be with you all today. I wanted to say that it's really an honor to be an outstanding graduating senior, and I'm really thankful. Originally, I was a transfer student from Mesa Community College. I transferred in 2019, and I remember that I was so nervous to start school at a university. Firstly, because I knew the work and the curriculum would be so much more difficult and challenging than it had been at a community college. Also, I was really scared of leaving the community that I had at a community college. I knew when I transferred, I was really going to miss my professors and friends from Mesa College, and I wondered if I would be successful at SDSU. Of course, all my worrying was for nothing, because my first semester at SDSU was like the best 4 months of my life. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by tons of students like me who shared my interest in linguistics and languages. I think another big reason that the transition from community college to SDSU was so easy was because of how amazing all of the professors at SDSU are. All of my professors, especially in the linguistics department, have been spectacular. The professors in the linguistics department really care about their students, and they really want to give us everything we need to be successful lifelong learners. While at SDSU, all my professors only ever gave me support and encouragement to reach for the stars, and I'm really thankful for them, and I know that my classmates are too. I want to nominate Dr. Eniko Chomai as most influential faculty member. It was in her theory and practice of English as a second language class that I knew I had made the right decision picking linguistics as my major. And it was in her class that I decided I would eventually like to become an English teacher. I appreciated how in every class, Dr. Chomai encouraged all of her students to participate. She wanted us to share our ideas and experiences with language, learning, and teaching. She provided us with curriculum that challenged us and required us to put in a lot of effort. Dr. Chomai expects her students to give almost the same amount of effort in class that she herself gives. And I'll tell you, that's a lot of effort. I actually wanted to share a short anecdote about one of our class meetings that happened before the pandemic. It was in the afternoon, and Dr. Chomai had sent us all an email telling us that she was sick and she couldn't make it to class, but she had never canceled a class before and that she was working on a solution. She told us in her email that we, the students, should all still show up on time, ready to learn. So all of us students went to class, and when we walked in, there was Dr. Chomai on the classroom projector. Her husband had come before and had set everything up for us. And that day, Dr. Chomai led the whole lecture and the discussion from her house, just like a normal class, but from the projector. And I remember thinking, this is so special that she cared so much that she wasn't going to let us miss out on anything. Later on, when the pandemic began and everything turned online, a lot of us were worried what classes would be like. But despite the difficult circumstances, Dr. Chomai came to every Zoom class, so excited and eager to teach us. To me, her enthusiasm for teaching us was so remarkable and admirable. And I know for me, and I think for other students in her class, that enthusiasm was a lesson in itself. A reminder that whatever we all end up doing in the course of our lives, we should strive to do it with the same level of professionalism, kindness, and enthusiasm. So I'll just finish up by saying thank you so much, Dr. Chomai, and thank you to all of our wonderful professors for everything. Thank you for giving us all the tools and the skills and the knowledge. We appreciate it.
Congratulations again.
Yeah.
Dr. Chomai will now say a few words.
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about COVID. We talked about COVID before. I'm going to talk about Thina. I have known Thina for about 2 years now, I think maybe a year and a half. And I remember her on the first day of the Linguistics 550 class, as she mentioned, we discussed theories of language learning and examined methods of teaching English in that class. So in this class, she sat in the first row, closest to the teacher, okay, had the spiral notebook out and her pen ready to learn, looking very serious. Thina was attentive but quiet in the class first, so I wasn't quite sure how much she was taking in, but I noticed that she actually took notes, which seems to be a rare phenomenon these days. And then she asked just the right questions. It was only after the first quiz when I realized that she does take it in. Her answers on the quiz were focused, succinct, and to the point. Later, I found out that she has a 4.0 average with us. It is truly an accomplishment, as we, that is faculty at this department, are not an easy bunch to please. The bar is pretty high. But it was only after my class that I got to know Thina a little more, when she contacted me about her desire and plans to go to grad school. She came to the meeting as prepared as she was in class. She had her notebook out and told me she had 4 questions. Faculty like it when students tell them the number of questions they have when you come to office hours. During our discussion, and as I was writing her letters of recommendation to the schools she had applied for, I found out that Thina has been purposefully building her portfolio to showcase the many areas she has been participating in our program. For example, she was invited to be a grader for 2 classes, grammar and language acquisition. Now, you need to know that when you are an undergraduate and you're asked to be a grader for a grammar class, it's quite a compliment. You must have gained complete trust of the professor that you would be doing a good job. No wonder she later became a linguistics fellow, which allows you to participate in our English for academic purposes program. This program primarily focuses on English reading and writing for the academic context. As a fellow, you help the students with their writing classes, composition classes. She also volunteered in our program at Rosa Parks Elementary School, which is an after-school program for kids to develop English language skills. Here, she worked with children who speak a language other than English at home. She was also invited to represent the linguistics department by participating in the student success panel for undecided students at SDSU. Well, In addition to all of this, Tina has a minor in Russian. She just wanted to keep up her language skills after studying Russian at St. Petersburg for 2 years. And by the way, in her free time, she studies Arabic and also began studying Uzbek. What else would you do in your free time, right? Well, what will she do after she graduates? Well, she, as I mentioned before, she wanted to know about grad school. So through our discussion, I found out that through her studies with us, she became quite passionate about language learning, bilingualism, multilingualism, and that she discovered and became fascinated by how language patterns appear, particularly in ESL student writing. She also became very interested in how we can discover those language patterns through corpus linguistics methods. Now, of course, you know, corpus linguists use computational tools and methods to discover patterns of language use in large collections of texts. So we discussed her options for grad school, and later I found out that she was accepted to 3 master's programs, including SDSU. I hope she will choose us to study further, but we might have to wait for her for a year because she also applied for a Fulbright grant to be an English teaching associate in Uzbekistan, and she's a finalist for the program. The Fulbright program was founded by Senator William Fulbright after the Second World War and is sponsored partly by the State Department. The goal of the program is to facilitate cultural exchanges across the world with the hope to foster better understanding across cultures. It has programs for undergraduate and graduate students as well as scholars. It is a highly regarded, prestigious program that allows grantees to spend a year abroad with a stipend, and it covers accommodation and healthcare while abroad. After the long and very competitive application process, including interviews, as a finalist, Tina can be notified any minute now whether she would go to Uzbekistan for a year. But Tina doesn't allow her future to be left for chance. In addition to the Fulbright, she also applied for a job, a similar job, at an international school in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and after the interview process, she was offered the job. Tina, I sincerely hope you will choose SDSU to complete your master's. We will wait for you. Your dedication to our field is impressive. Your focus on your goals will take you far. No pun intended. Congratulations. I wish you, Tina, and all of you graduating students good luck for the next phase in your lives. Let us know how we can support you further in reaching your goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And congratulations again, Aniko. It is now my pleasure to identify the outstanding student for 2021 in Japanese, Martin Martinez. And his most influential faculty is Dr. Ryu Kitajima. Martin will now make his remarks.
Thank you so much, Professor. Good morning, faculty, staff, and loved ones of SDSU. My name is Martin Martinez. I'm very grateful to have been selected as the outstanding graduating senior of the Japanese major. Attempting to learn any new language can be daunting, and it becomes even more daunting when it's the focus of your college career. In comparison to many other SDSU majors, the Japanese major is rather small, but because of that, I was able to be more connected with my classmates and professors. I witnessed firsthand the growth of my peers alongside me, from the upperclassmen of my freshman year to the underclassmen of my senior year. So many of them became friends who helped me conquer the hurdles that we needed to jump over together. One friend in particular, Alex May, has been and still is an immense source of inspiration in my life. Even after he graduated from SDSU as a fellow Japanese major and my upperclassman, he continued offering me guidance that was pivotal in both my academic growth of learning Japanese, as well as my own personal growth. Alex especially acted as a mentor during my junior year when I studied abroad in Japan. I was incredibly fortunate that SDSU's relationships with other schools allowed me to have options when I chose which school to attend. Thanks to the professors who knew me well and had my best interests in mind, I was nominated to attend Doshisha University in Kyoto. At Doshisha, I had the opportunity to conduct research on Japanese college students and gender expression through fashion. Being able to perform this project entirely in Japanese gave me a momentous realization that up until that point, I was initially learning the language simply for the sake of learning it in school. But my research had made all my studying culminate into something tangible. I was using what I learned in class to speak about a topic truly meaningful to me, and ultimately, through my studies, learned more about myself. The incredible adventures I had in Japan would not have been possible without the Japanese program here at SDSU, the scholarship opportunities, and the guidance of my professors, who showed me that I could carve my own path to success in my own way. Of all my professors, the one who has been most influential to me is Dr. Ryu Kitajima. Like any other language course, we were taught vocabulary words and grammar, but Dr. Kitajima constructed her courses in a way that allowed us to experience something new and unique every time we attended her class. Language exercises that could have been repetitively drilled into us suddenly became exciting because she made every new thing seem worth learning. From historical pieces and fantasy dramas to news articles of things that were localized and specific to Japan, she was always tremendously passionate about sharing her culture with us in incredibly unique ways. Even outside of the classroom, Dr. Kitajima made every effort to make sure her students succeeded. I had personally hit a wall during the first semester that I ever had her as a professor. She always followed up with me and was patient with my shortcomings. She made me feel that in her classroom, language and culture weren't just things to study for good grades. They allowed us to connect with others. Despite only being her student for 2 semesters, I still find myself referring to things that she talked about in her class. At the end of the day, she made sure that I was engaged and felt just as important as any of her other students. Her influence has permanently impacted the way I perceive language and its importance in culture and identity. And this is why I've chosen her as my most influential faculty member. Kitajima sensei, 大変お世話になりました。今まで本当にありがとうございました。Thank you again to the Japanese language program here at SDSU and to the Department of Linguistics and Asian Middle Eastern Studies.
Congratulations, Martin, and thank you very much. Dr. Kitajima will now make her remarks.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm
Oh,
sorry
great.
you weren't able to be on Zoom, but go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Martin. I'm joining you through landline today because this morning my iPhone was hacked and cannot recognize my fingerprint. And in order to get into the university system, I need to use my iPhone. And because of that, I have to use this landline. But I feel really honored to be selected as the most influential professor by Martin Martinez. Martin was admitted to SDSU as an astronomy major. He took Japanese 111, hoping that he could work for Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency after graduation. But his interest towards Japanese language grew rapidly, so that he switched his major to Japanese. I taught him fourth-year Japanese courses, Japanese literature through text and film, and Japanese newspaper reading and advanced composition. By the time when he reached these 2 courses, his Japanese language proficiency was near native speakers of Japanese. This is a tremendous accomplishment to students who studied a foreign language from scratch. And I owe greatly to my colleagues, particularly Higurashi Sensei, Kuratani Sensei, and Otsuka Sensei, whose dedication contributed to his successful acquisition of the Japanese language. I am also glad to say that a very capable Professor Arita Sensei joined us in the fall of 2020, and she is going to lead our Japanese program. Martin has linguistic talent in social variation in Japanese language use. He always uses a formal style when he speaks up in class and uses honorific forms when he speaks to me like a polite Japanese. However, one time he mistakenly included me in a group of Japanese friends to whom he sent a message. It was replete with full of slangs used by young Japanese. I was rather impressed by his versatile skills of shifting styles according to interlocutors. With this linguistic talent, Martin conducted a research study about gender expression of Japanese college students while studying at Dosha University as an exchange student and received a scholarship by government of Japan's Ministry of Education. In addition to this linguistic talent, Martin had academic diligence and excellent study skills. His good command of Japanese enabled him to explore various issues related to Japanese literature, films, poems, and social issues. His essay assignments demonstrate a keen analytical mind. He synthesized and organized information from a variety of texts and delivered persuasive arguments. He demonstrated profound interpretations of aesthetic aspects of Matsuo Basho's haiku. After graduation, he plans to apply for the JET program and afterwards hopes to pursue a career related to social linguistics aspect in Japanese. Congratulations on great accomplishment, Martin. It was my great pleasure having Martin in my class. I want to say the same thing to all the Japanese major graduates here. In these days, diversity and inclusion is an important issue in campus life and in our society. The university encourages us to emphasize this aspect in our classroom. However, the truth is that I belong to the diverse population and that the Japanese studies is a diverse subject area. I appreciate that the Japanese major students are aware of the multiple identities of their society and embrace diverse viewpoints and value social cultural dynamics. It is a great hope that they are going to graduate and partake in the creation of our future society. Congratulations on the excellent accomplishment, Martin, and to all the graduates here. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to the parents, grandparents, spouses, and friends who have guided and supported our students to this day. I wish you all the very best for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryu, and congratulations again. Now we will begin to recognize all our graduates. First, we will recognize the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts in Linguistics. Please feel free to cheer, clap your friends on. Dr. Gavrin will read the names of the graduates in linguistics.
Okay. These are the graduates for the bachelor's degree in linguistics. I think I've got all the names of those who are attending, and please let us know if we miss anyone. Caroline Cesenia.
Yay.
Shelby, oh, you have, okay, Shelby Cunningham.
Hi, y'all.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stephanie Escobedo Solis.
Thank you to my professors.
Congratulations.
Phoebe Gurn.
Is Phoebe here?
Phoebe's not here?
Maybe not.
Okay. Dina Livingston.
Woo! Yeah, Athena!
Congratulations.
Okay.
We love you, Thina.
Lots of cheers. Good. Vincent K.K. Ojeda II.
Hello, thank you.
Congratulations.
Noemi Ana Parilla.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You can unmute yourselves if you guys want to cheer.
Emmanuel A. Rodriguez.
Woohoo, go Emmanuel.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Go, Emmanuel.
Caitlin M. Romero.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, and that's all the names I have for linguistics, BAs in linguistics.
Okay, I think, yes, we've covered the BA in linguistics. Next, we will recognize the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts in Japanese. Dr. Higurashi will read the names.
Okay, we have 4 students who are attending the commencement today. So first, Shelby Cunningham, who studied at Hosei University in Tokyo. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was super
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, great. And Vincent Ojeda, who also studied at Hosei University.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, then Martin Martinez, who studied at Dosha University. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Noemi Padilla, who didn't have a chance to study abroad, but he studied a lot already. Yeah, great. And of course, Shelley and Vincent and Noemi are also getting BA in linguistics. Congratulations, great.
Very impressive. Congratulations,
Yes.
all. Very impressive. Next, we will recognize the candidates for the Bachelor of Arts in Language, Culture, and Society. We had 2 graduates this year, which is very impressive because the bachelor's degree just began in fall 2020. I believe one of them is here, and Dr. Aaron Dinkin will read the name and recognize the graduate.
Well, we have our very first graduate in Language, Culture, and Society, Emily C. Buckley.
Yay.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Very impressive. Okay, now we will move on to the Masters of Arts in Linguistics, and Dr. Keating will recognize the candidates for the Master of Arts in Linguistics.
Okay, thank you. So before announcing our candidates for graduation, I would like to provide a bit of context for the accomplishment that we're recognizing today. Our department offers 2 Masters of Arts programs, one in general linguistics and one in TESOL/applied linguistics. And students in both programs take a rigorous slate of courses taught by demanding professors. Unlike the undergraduate degree in linguistics, the MA is not awarded on the basis of completing courses alone. MA students must write a thesis or take MA comprehensive exams. As you can imagine, both options are quite grueling. Writing a thesis is this long and lonely process. Usually takes about 12 to 15 months, sometimes 18. It's just you, your thoughts, and a keyboard. So similarly, students taking comprehensive exams, they're tested in 3 different areas in a process that lasts up to 8 weeks. There's obviously time pressure to complete the exams and so forth. In addition to coursework, exams, and theses, many of our students teach undergraduate courses at SDSU while pursuing their degree. So students in our MA program teach and tutor in the university's English for Academic Purposes writing program, which we abbreviate EAP. Some teach our introductory course, Linguistics 101, which many of our graduates took a long time ago. And others teach foreign languages offered in our department, particularly Japanese and occasionally other languages such as Arabic and Chinese. In sum, our graduates have earned their time in the spotlight today. So without further ado, we'll recognize our candidates for graduation with the MA degree in linguistics. And again, I'll be calling the names of 8 students who are in attendance today. First, we'd like to congratulate Mitchell Jeremiah Salaya.
Way to go.
Next, Myra Hayes.
Yay!
Hey, Myra.
It's fascinating wallpaper too. I love that. Bruna Harumi Ito Batista.
Woohoo, go Bruna!
Hey.
Yay!
Thank you.
Nicole Sheehan Johnson.
Go, Nicole.
Oh, yeah! Go Nicole!
Justin Kern.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Blake.
Hey.
Garrett Michael Lowry.
Yay!
There you go, Garrett.
We made it, guys.
How about that? Wow.
Sarah Shenandoah Savage.
Yay! Congratulations.
There you go, Sarah.
Oh.
Shane Patrick Taylor.
Yay!
Way to go, Shane. Congratulations. And we'd also like you to take a look at your program for the names of graduates who did not attend this ceremony today. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are going to just have few minutes open for faculty who would like to say a few words as we come to the end of the program to wish our graduates. So I don't have a particular order here, but feel free to speak, faculty who are in attendance.
Betty, may I say that Makiko Maimoto is with us? She is a GTA.
Yes.
Yeah, but you didn't have a chance to acknowledge her. Yeah, at the beginning.
Right. I wasn't. I didn't focus on
That's
GPA.
okay.
There were a
Yeah.
few more here in attendance.
Yeah. So I'd like to mention that Makiko came with 13 years of teaching experience in a commercial setting. So she's a tremendous asset to our program. Okay. Yeah. And also those of you who are graduating with BA in Japanese, I'd like you to be aware that out of 1.4 million students who are enrolled in foreign language classes, okay, how many people are taking Japanese? 69,000, okay, according to the MLA survey in the fall of 2016. The latest one will not come out until later, so I'm using the most current data. And then 4.85% of 1.4 million are taking Japanese. But let's see, so 4.85%, and then how many students are taking upper division or advanced level Japanese? That's 1/6, that's 0.8%. And how many of them are graduating successfully with a degree? So I'd like you to be aware that all of you graduating with BA in Japanese, you are the treasure of the society. So I really wish you continued success and make changes in this world. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Yoshiko. And Nicole.
I just want to repeat, congratulations, guys, and do not be afraid to follow your passion, especially when it comes to language. It's just keep going and you'll get to far, far lands. So congratulations once again, and we'll see you around, I hope, one way or another. See ya.
Mark?
Well, I just want to wish you all, the graduates in all our programs, wish you well in your career ahead and in your life to follow. The pandemic's been a challenge for students as it has been for everybody. And I think you've done really well with that. You've had a lot of experiences taken away from you that you might have had in a more normal college setting, but that doesn't take away from the tremendous accomplishment that this is for you today. You've earned this degree, and congratulations.
Thank you. Other faculty, yes, it might be helpful if you raised your hand so then I know who would like to speak next. If not, Erin, go ahead.
I just want to say congratulations to all the graduates. It's been really great working with all of you.
Thank you.
And to our graduate students, first, I just wanted to commend you for all of your grit and perseverance. The MA program's short, it's 2 years. And so if you started it last fall, you only had one semester that, you know, we might call a typical semester, maybe 1.5 if you're really counting. And we know this wasn't what you signed up for, and yet you persevered. But I also wanted to thank you for your flexibility and patience. Maybe because many of you are teaching, I think you were quite sympathetic and compassionate to your professors. I had a colleague at another university who said, you know, we're not working from home, we're living at work. And that's really what it felt like for us. And I never had a case where students were, as advisor, there were many things that we do on a typical schedule. Let's have an advising meeting. You're going to enroll in courses next week, MA exams, they're on timelines. We faculty couldn't always do those on the timelines that we normally do them on. I never had a case of a single student going, hey, where's this? When are we going to do this? What about that? They knew we're on it. We'll get to it as fast as we can. And I really appreciated your flexibility and patience. So if you can take away these 4 characteristics as you move forward in your careers, grit and perseverance, flexibility and patience, you're going to go far. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well said. Right. Again, I'd like to thank the parents and family members and friends of our graduates for being here. I would also like to thank all those who have contributed to this celebration, particularly Darlene Bouch, Cassandra Neal, and Yasmin Panahi. I would especially like to thank Darlene for her work on the wonderful video, and who also made this celebratory Zoom screen for me, which has become quite popular in the college. Other chairs have wanted this background that she made for me. On behalf of the faculty and staff of the Department of Linguistics and Asian/Middle Eastern Languages, I extend best wishes to our graduates for full and happy lives and successful careers. We will now move to Gather Town, where we can be turned into little creatures who can move around and have conversations in small groups. Rob Malouf will send the link on chat again. There, he's already done it. It's fun. It's actually a lot of fun. You don't have to have used it before. So I hope you'll hop on over to Gather Town so that we can meet your family and meet your friends. I hope to see you all there. So thanks very much.